Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Launchpad, the Associate Educational Workshop for Level 1 Work Experience Activities. This afternoon, we have Joe Fritz, who's going to be taking us through the rules of golf. Good afternoon, Joe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. And go ahead, get right into it, or anything else we need to cover real quick?
Nope, that's it. Take her away. We'll, however long you go, we'll monitor the question box. For everybody that's on this afternoon's Launchpad, if you have questions, feel free to type the questions into the question box, and then I'll interject them during Joe's presentation. Or you could email, you could text them out through the question box at the end. But when he's done with his presentation, we'll open it up to Q&A.
Perfect. Not going to spend too much time presenting. Largely, I want to focus on the rule book today. Rule book's going to be your best friend. Obviously, you're not going to have to memorize every rule, but knowing where to find it quickly and accurately is going to be most important on the course, during the event, or even on the test here. So we'll get into it real quick. Give me 1 sec here. Sorry, got to minimize myself. There we go. Okay, so again, number one, how to use the rules of golf here. So I'll head to the table of contents right when we open the book. If everyone has one in front of them there, we'll see how all the rules are laid out, the foreword. First thing we're going to go is to page 15, and that's going to be how to use the rules of golf. So here we say, we see know the definitions as one of the headlines as well. If we flip to page 16, we'll see the facts of the case here, which is basically asking us questions, how the rule would apply, basically the thought process behind going through rules and how to determine when to use what where. So from there, we can flip to the back of the book where we see all of our definitions. The rules of golf has got over 70 definitions in here. If we flip to the back, we can see penalty area, for example, broken down in depth quite a bit here. That's on page 214, 215. Penalty area, any body of water, any part of the course the committee defines as one, yellow, red staked areas, just all sorts of different definitions, which we'll go over in a couple of examples later on today as well. So the index is behind the definitions. You'll see where it has kind of headlines, for example, abnormal course conditions where the ball's not found. Let's say a bunker's flooded, you'll find it in there. It'll show you the rule, 1 through 24, and then the page number as well. So flipping back and forth between the index, table of contents, definitions, all to make sure you get one correct ruling. It'll happen. Usually it's more simple than that, but like I said, we'll go over a couple different ones today. So first example here is the use of a training aid. Let's say George is playing in an individual stroke play event under regular USGA rules. George has back and shoulder issues, as do many golfers today, and has a doctor's note recommending he stretch and stay loose however necessary throughout his round. You're the tournament coordinator here. You're the committee by yourself. You're aware of this note. The rest of the field does not know of it. He's tight after 9 holes, uses a couple elastic bands to stretch throughout his round. He's tight again, then uses the orange whip to loosen his shoulders further, makes a couple full swings with it. After the round, his competitor makes mention while scoring that George used training aids during the round to his advantage. What do you do here? So again, going back to page 16, it's going to ask us the logical way to think through this. So what the form of play is, stroke play, match play, etc. We know it's stroke play here. Who is involved? Is it the player caddy, the opponent, or his or her caddy, or an outside influence? what area of the course did the incident occur? Was it the teeing area, the bunker, penalty area, putting green? And then what actually happened? And last, we have what the player's intentions are, and then the timing of the incident. Was it during the round? Is the round over? So if we go back here, what do we know? So we know it's stroke play. We know George is involved by himself. He doesn't have a caddy. He's acting independently here. We don't have the specifics on where the incident on the course took place. We can assume it was on the teeing area, nothing out of the ordinary there. What actually happened? So the question that comes up here is, did George use this training aid to his advantage? Does he have an advantage over the rest of the field that they are not aware of? So that's basically what we have to assess. We know the player's intentions. He's stretching because he has a doctor's note. Again, the rest of the field may not know that. We also know the timing of the incident is that it happened a couple different times during the round. So how do we get to the ruling? So first, we'll go to the table of contents. Then we'll figure out what use of the training aids would fall under, what rule that would be. So if you go there, we'll see that there's a couple different options that we could come up here with. Rules 4.3, 5.2, and 5.5. 4.3 here is the use of equipment. It goes over allowed and prohibited uses of equipment. It will go over gloves, gripping agents, audio and video, stretching devices, training aids, and slings, which is what we're looking for. So we know 4.3 would be a good one. If we were to look at 5.2, we see that it's practicing on course before or between rounds. And then we'll see 5.5 here is practicing during a round or while play is stopped. So while 5.2 and 5.5 go over practicing during the round or gaining an advantage that way, we have to determine whether or not that's even the scenario here. So if we go to the index, we'll go under equipment, and we'll see again a couple different readings here, or couple different rules here, excuse me. So we'll go back to 4.3 because we know that that's going to be stretching devices, training aids. We know we're going to have to get information from there. So if we read the rule real quick here. Normally, we would interpret that George is in trouble for using a training aid to gain an unfair advantage. That's blatantly what happened. You know, he's using the orange whip to make full swings while the rest of the field did not have that capability. So from there, we will continue reading the 4.3b, and we'll then find out that there is a medical exception, and that says a player is not in breach of Rule 4.3 if he or she uses equipment to help with a medical condition, so long as the player has a medical reason to use the equipment and the committee decides that its use does not give the player any advantage over other players. So seems pretty clear as day right there. So we're going to go check our definitions to go make sure everything George did would fall under that rule, make sure nothing else is more or less out of the ordinary there. And then moving forwards to avoid, you know, any conflict, let's say the whole field is upset with George, I would say to make just make a note moving forwards that there are going to be players with medical exceptions and all that fun stuff. Notes need to be turned in ahead of time just to avoid any conflicts, you know, on the tee. So local rules will be another big part. Most tournaments I played in have had some kind of line at the bottom of the rule sheet saying, you know, all USGA and local rules apply. But as we know, local rules are made independently by each facility with USGA rules in mind. They may be put in place temporarily, and they may go against, you know, what we know the rules to be in certain situations. So one that I personally had in the era of COVID-19, as we all know, we've had pool noodles on the bottom of holes or on the bottom of flag sticks to eliminate everyone touching the same area on the hole. So we at Classic Club, we decided to put in these ball lift devices that worked pretty well. But we have pretty bulky flag sticks there, and they got a little bent out of shape after some heavy use. And we were having some very close putts actually bounce out, even though they would go in every time. So for the tournament in June, we had to adopt a local rule, basically saying, this is going to happen. This is how we're going to address the situation. So, you know, no one's bent out of shape after the round and everything can go smoothly. So before everyone teed off, and I put this on the rule sheet as well, I let every group know what to expect from the course, and that, again, the situation would likely happen. A putt that would go in will bounce out. And the rule I decided to enforce was to have each group on the course decide within themselves that if the putt went in and it, you know, it should have counted, that as long as it went along the rules of within the spirit of the game, if it looked like it would have gone in, we decided to count it. And if it were obvious and there were any issues or disputes, I would have them come back to me and then we would decide from there. Well, again, it's not clean and kind of relies on the committee there. Given the age of COVID, there weren't, you know, a whole lot of solutions around that. So sometimes you have to get creative, but the key is to inform everyone in that regard. So, and then it came back, it did happen to a couple different groups, but everyone resolved them right then and there. No issues came back to me, and a lot of people praised the fact that, again, the event ran smoothly, all things considered. So the USGA will be releasing new rules every 4 years. Every 4 years, the new rule book will come out, the one we're using now, effective January 2019. Again, the rules seem to change every day. There's been so many that have been changed, and some we feel that should be but have not been. The USGA's got a lot of good resources. They'll have the rules quizzes online, which can be very difficult. The examples will be a little more intense than mine sometimes. They also do a great job of releasing any updates when they'll be going into effect, and have good visual and actual video explanations of a lot of their new rule changes as well. So like I said earlier, there's no need to memorize these rules. As long as we know how to navigate the rule book properly, which is going to be a lot of flipping between the table of contents, index, definitions, and again, just think logically through each scenario. What do we know happened and what the intent was, and go from there. So we'll do one more. This will be a kind of a complicated one. It might be one you'll see on your level 1 quizzes as well. This one's similar to one I had a number of years ago on mine. So for example, Max plays a wedge. His ball comes to rest 30 yards over the green inside of a bunker. This is a fairly big event, so there's some vendors working near the bunker. One worker dumped a large pile of ice into that bunker, not realizing it was actually a bunker, kind of like what happened to Dustin Johnson in 2010 PGA. Grounded his club, didn't realize he was actually in a bunker because people had been walking through it all day. But rules are rules at the end of the day. So Max's ball comes to rest on the pile of ice. Another fact, that the bunker had taken on a lot of water the last couple of days from rain. So this ice was actually dumped on top of some standing water inside the bunker, and Max's ball has come to rest on top of that ice. So he knows he's not allowed to touch and remove loose impediments in penalty areas, although we know that rule has been changed for bunkers, but Max doesn't even know what he's in right now. So can he play it? He wants to take relief. What can he do? There's a lot of boxes to go over on this one. So scrolling through the table of contents, going through the index, we bring ourselves to rule 19.3, in which we have release options for an unplayable ball inside of a bunker. So seems like simple, but we also have rules 12.1, 12.2, ball and bunker, and then we have the definitions of loose impediments and movable obstructions inside of the bunker. And then we also have rule 15.2a, which describes that man-made ice is not a loose impediment, but a movable obstruction. which then tells us we're actually able to get free relief from the ice. So that brings us then to rule 16.1c, where we have the abnormal course condition in the bunker, which would be describing standing water. So we know we can take the ball off the ice, which then we'd have to drop inside of the water, inside of the bunker, which we are then allowed to take further relief from. So following rule 16.1c, and if you have the rule book in front of you there, you can see a good graphics explaining how to then drop the ball inside the bunker. You're supposed to go nearest point of relief, still inside the bunker without any standing water, which can be hard to find a lot of times in a lot of different scenarios, but anywhere then inside the bunker if you can't go no closer. And then if the bunker's totally washed out, you could then take it outside of the bunker completely and play from there. So I would like to turn it over to open discussion. Any questions? I know I threw a lot of information pretty quickly out there. I feel as if the rules, again, are pretty simple. The more you go through the book, familiarize yourself with definitions and then, scenarios, you'll be able to not only learn, kind of memorize the rules quickly, but again, come to a logical, well thought out answer within, I feel, just a couple of minutes at the longest.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Phenomenal stuff. Phenomenal stuff. Rules of golf. It's a fine line with all of us being in the customer service business and in the member service business. Sometimes the rules of golf can be difficult when you're trying to introduce new people to the game, because you want to make it warm, you want to make it welcoming. But at the same time, we as PGA members, we owe it to the game to educate the golfer on the rules of golf. It's just something that we're obligated to do, but we straddle it gingerly because the rules. If you just throw the rules at new people, it's liable to turn them off from the game. And so you want to educate, but you have to pick and choose your battles, so to speak. And it's really hard in tournament operations when you have to enforce a rule that is going to turn the player off to tournament play if you enforce it. But it's always one of those things that are difficult, in trying to grow this game. But we do need to preserve this game, and therein lies the problem. I got a question here from Eric. Hi, is there any way to catch the prior? Oh, actually, he's just got a question about prior onset. Or Eric, if you're there, to access prior catalysts, to access prior Launchpads, go to the website, the scpga.com, search out Launchpads, and you could download or go to the YouTube recording of the prior Launchpads that way. If you have trouble finding it through that, let me know. I have them recorded, and I could send you the link for those as well. Anybody else? Any questions? As he just said, thank you, Bryce. I'm actually John. I'm sorry that this says Bryce. I need to change this when I log on. Any other questions, anybody? Tom, do you have anything to say?
No, John, thank you. Thank you, Joe. I think the examples were two good ways to present the material today. It's probably the best way to understand how to best find the rule that's relevant, so you can find the right answer, especially for your tests. So thanks for that. Just a reminder, we do have business planning for next Monday, 4 o'clock. I think one of the feedback we received from the survey was the two sections that were most interested were business planning and coaching. So I think we have Jeffrey Brothers. He's an associate, just recently completed level 2, and he's been from a different background in terms of head executive chef for many years and understands the business side of it very well. So he's a perfect person, I think, to explain this complicated section. So please join next week at 4 o'clock for business planning, which is probably one of the most challenging sections in level 1. So pass the word to other associates. I think we have, 6 associates joining the call today. It'd be great to have increasing number of associates joining these calls for the next 3 weeks. So after that, it's the next section will be player development, and then we have coaching, and sorry, there's one more section I forgot. So we have 3 more weeks left: 16th, 23rd, and the 30th for the first Launchpad for level 1. And then John and I will decide along with other instructors who are who helped assisted us to plan for 2021 Launchpad, and we'll let you know obviously as we decide that before end of the year. That's it from me, John. John, I think you're still on mute.
Joe, do you have any parting comments? Oh, I got another one here, actually. Announcement, register for, who put that in there? Hannah Faccini. Hannah just made an announcement to all of us. She wants us to register for the USGA Rules of Golf Workshop for 2021, which is tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific time. Hannah, could you send out forward the registration link to the lot of us? When I email out the YouTube recording of this afternoon's Launchpad, it'll have everybody's email in the CC. Go ahead and reply to that, and if you could forward the registration for that. I was unaware. I should be on it, and if anybody else wants to attend, they should be on it as well. So if you could reply to that Launchpad email, that would be great. Thank you, Hannah.
And
Dwayne Dudley.
Oh.
What is the correct order for finding the correct again?
I was just like, I don't know about
Table, etc. Joe, could you walk her through how do you use the rule book? I think how do you access a given rule? What's the step by step? Do you go to the table and then onto the index, or is there another order?
Sure, it'll vary by the rule. I like to start with the table of contents and just kind of see, rules, competition. Does it involve playing the round? Does it involve searching, et cetera, et cetera? If you don't see anything right away, I would recommend flipping to the back, flipping to the index, where then you'll be able to see, more scenarios, for example. Real quick here, identifying ball accidentally moved when identifying, that'll point you to rule 7.4, page 70 right away. So I would say if you don't see it in the table of contents immediately, flip to the index. And again, I would use both though, make sure you don't leave any page unread, so to speak.
Okay. All right, everybody, it looks like that is it.
So John, I just want to clarify, next week is 16th, Jeffrey Brothers will be instructing business planning. 23rd will be Michael Gainey instructing player development. And the last Launchpad will be November 30th. Kyle Mendoza, who is the champion of the STPGA, it will be instructing coaching. So those three are the last.
Jeffrey Brothers is the presenter, is the educator next week?
Yes, he's presenting next week on business planning.
Fantastic.
And one last thing, if the associates on the call now, just as a bigger question, do you have any suggestions or recommendations on how we can improve the presentations going forward, or are you happy with the current presentation format? Any feedback would be appreciated as well if you have any.
Okay.
All right, thank
everybody.
you, everyone. Thank you,
All right,
Joe.
thank you, everyone.
What is this here? Okay, Caitlin Ellis is asking about business planning. May have to be. Caitlin Ellis is suggesting that business planning should be a 2-week presentation educational component. What do you think about that, Tom?
I think that's a smart suggestion, given the complexity of that section. Jeff, I would just reviewed Jeff's presentation today, and Jeffrey actually done a very thorough job in explaining every part of the section. And if we think that we're going to run out of time on next Monday, we could always schedule it for another week, and then we could delay the rest of the schedule for another week if Michael Gainey and Kyle Mandel's schedule do not conflict. So I think we could play by ear depending on how it goes next Monday's presentation.
Okay, and if that's the case, Tom, and we're going to spend another week on it, would we be staying with Jeffrey Brothers as the presenter?
Correct. Because Jeffrey will be. If we run out of time next Monday, I think Jeff could just continue the week after.
Okay, and if that happens, then we can change the marketing, and I'll be happy to do that.
Right. We'll just delay the next 2 presentations for another week.
Okay, very good. Hopefully that answers Caitlin's question.
And for Caitlin's questions, I've asked Jeffrey to have the Excel spreadsheet available so he could answer the questions via the spreadsheet, so it's easier for associates to understand.
Dudley is asking, you asked for feedback on the Launchpads, Tom. He wants to know if we can make the presentations more directly associated with the portfolio assignment scenarios.
Okay.
Opposed to just being a general informative.
Got it.
I thought that's what we were doing, but we should be talking more to the work experience activities themselves.
Or another, yes, I think that's what we're trying to do. I think the Excel spreadsheet for next week, I think that covers his point that we'll have the spreadsheet available to answer questions, and I think it'd be helpful to maybe to have those questions, those specific questions relating to the portfolio at the maybe early beginning of the presentation, so the presenter could cover that through his or her presentation. But something that I will definitely remind the last 2 presenters to make sure that's more geared towards answering the questions on the portfolio.
Great. Okay. All right, everybody. That concludes the Launchpad on Rules of Golf for the day. Any questions or comments you're not comfortable sharing on this forum, feel free to email me or Tom, and we can communicate that way too. And stand by here in the next half hour, 45 minutes. I'll send out the YouTube link for Joe's presentation today. Thank you, everybody. Joe Fritz, thank you very much for your time. and expertise in putting together that presentation, and everybody that's on the Launchpad, thank you very much for supporting it. And thanks for your feedback as well. We want to get better at running this. We want to get better at offering this, and of course we want to be sensitive to your feedback, because we want to make the presentations as relevant to the workload material as possible. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.